9 games. That's all that separates anticipation from history. Arsenal sit 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. On paper, that's control. That's authority. That's a team dictating its own destiny. But title races aren't played on paper. They're played in nerves, in moments, in the invisible pressure that builds with every passing week. Behind them stands the most relentless machine English football has seen in the modern era. Manchester City. Calm, calculated, unforgiving. A team that doesn't blink, a team that doesn't fade, a team that turns April and May into hunting season. And that's what makes this moment different. Just weeks ago, this race felt steadier. Now, every fixture feels heavier. Every kickoff feels like a final. The margin is 5 points, but with 9 games left, 5 points can disappear in a single breath. Mikel Arteta said it himself. 9 games to go, game by game. Hopefully at the end, something beautiful. Something beautiful. Not a guarantee, not a declaration, a hope. And that word tells you everything about the tension inside this run-in, because beauty in football isn't given, it's survived for. This isn't just about staying top. It's about holding your nerve while the champions breathe down your neck. It's about protecting belief when the noise gets louder. It's about turning pressure into clarity instead of panic. 9 games, 5-point lead, one giant shadow behind them. The race hasn't exploded yet, but you can feel it tightening. And this is where title stories are either written in gold or rewritten in regret. At the top of the table, control is everything, but control is fragile. The first crack didn't look dramatic. It wasn't chaos. It wasn't collapse. It was quieter than that, and maybe that's why it was more dangerous. A 0-0 draw away at Nottingham Forest. On its own, a point at the City ground isn't a disaster, but context changes everything. Arsenal had the chance to go 9 points clear. 9. That kind of gap shifts the psychological balance of an entire title race. Instead, the cushion stayed smaller. The door wasn't wide open, but it wasn't fully shut either. And when you're being chased by Manchester City, unlocked doors are invitations. A week later, the tension sharpened. A 3-2 home defeat to Manchester United. This wasn't just 3 points lost. It was momentum surrendered. The Emirates, once calm and confident, began to feel uneasy. The lead shrank. Conversations shifted. The language around Arsenal changed from in control to under pressure. Then came the draining draws. 1-1 against Brentford. Still top. Still technically ahead. But emotionally, it felt different. The gap was narrowing. The chase was tightening. And then Wolves. 2-2 against Wolverhampton Wanderers. 2 goals up. Minutes left. Game managed. Or so it seemed. Until the 94th minute, a teenage debutant rising in stoppage time to equalize. From comfort to disbelief in seconds. That wasn't just dropped points. That was doubt creeping in. Because title races don't collapse all at once. They erode. Quietly. Gradually. One missed opportunity at a time. And this is where the narrative turned. Pundits began asking it. Fans began whispering it. Headlines leaned into it. Are Arsenal wobbling again? Not because they were playing badly. Not because they looked broken. But because history has a cruel memory. Modern Arsenal have led before. They've felt the pressure before. And as the margin shrinks, fear grows louder than logic. This period wasn't about disaster. It was about anxiety. The lead compressed. The noise amplified. The belief wavered. Not inside the squad necessarily, but around them. And in a title race, perception can feel as heavy as reality. The table still said Arsenal were top, but the momentum, that felt like it was slipping. This is where the story stops being emotional and starts becoming structural. Because what changed in this Arsenal side wasn't just confidence. It wasn't just mentality. It was architecture. Against Tottenham, Arsenal played like a team that wanted chaos, but controlled chaos. The 4-1 win wasn't built on slow domination. It was built on vertical entries, early forward passes, runners attacking space, and a willingness to hurt the opponent quickly. The equalizer didn't freeze them. It provoked them. They increased tempo. They attacked the channels. They committed numbers forward with purpose. That version of Arsenal wins with punch. 4 days later against Chelsea, it looked completely different. The 2-1 victory wasn't about rhythm or flow. It was about spacing, timing, and discipline. The lines were tighter. The build-up was more measured. Instead of chasing transitions, Arsenal controlled territory. They accepted that the game would be uncomfortable and trusted their structure to outlast it. That version of Arsenal wins with control, and that contrast is the clearest evidence of what we can call Arteta 2.0. This isn't a team dependent on one tempo anymore. They don't need every match to look beautiful to win it. They don't panic when open play stalls because they've developed something even more reliable, a repeatable set-piece system. 16 Premier League goals from corners this season. That's not variance. That's design. Blocking schemes, delayed runs, layered movement at the near and far post. These are rehearsed patterns. Against Chelsea, both goals came from dead ball situations. When creativity wasn't flowing naturally, preparation took over. That's what elite teams do. They manufacture goals, but the evolution doesn't stop at tactics on the pitch. It extends to personnel usage. This is no longer just a starting 11 carrying the weight. It's a squad capable of solving different problems profiles for different matches, physical presence when needed, technical calm when required, defensive security to close games out. Arteta isn't adjusting mid-season out of desperation. He's expanding options by design. Arteta 1.0 built a team that could dominate possession. Arteta 2.0 has built a team that can dominate outcomes, blow you away in North London, grind you down at the Emirates, win in transition, win from corners, win with tempo, win with patience, multiple plans, multiple solutions, same result. And in a title run-in, versatility isn't a luxury, it's survival. In most title races, you're chasing points. Under Guardiola, City don't rush, they accumulate, they don't wobble publicly, they respond quietly. April and May historically belong to them. Winning streaks aren't dramatic, they're routine. That's what makes the shadow so heavy. It's not loud, it's constant. For Arsenal, that shadow isn't abstract, it's personal. Recent seasons still linger in memory. Leads built carefully, margins that looked safe, points that slowly disappeared. Not collapses in the theatrical sense, just small shifts that grew into decisive ones. Arsenal fans have seen how a title race can turn from control to survival in weeks. So when the lead shrinks from 9 potential points to 4, when draws replace wins, when late equalizers steal momentum, it doesn't feel neutral. It feels familiar. That's the psychological trap. Table pressure amplifies everything. When you're top, every match becomes a final, not because of the opponent, but because of what might happen behind you. You win, you breathe, you draw, you refresh the table at midnight, you lose, and suddenly the narrative changes entirely. Then there's the calendar. Wolves away, Spurs away, tight turnarounds, emotional derbies stacked on physical fatigue. Fixture congestion doesn't just drain legs, it clouds decision-making, it tests composure, it forces players to think clearly when their bodies are screaming at them to slow down. And hovering above it all is the question the media can't resist. Are Arsenal wobbling again? That question isn't about data, it's about history, it's about perception, it's about the fear that when City sense vulnerability, they accelerate. But here's the tension within the tension. Fear isn't the same as reality. The table still showed Arsenal first. The performances weren't catastrophic. The margins were tight, not broken. Yet psychologically, it felt unstable because City's reputation magnifies every imperfection. That's what the City shadow really is. Not dominance on the pitch, but dominance in expectation. To win this title, Arsenal don't just have to beat. Pressure creates two types of teams, the ones that tighten and the ones that respond. After weeks of shrinking margins and growing noise, Arsenal walked into North London needing more than 3 points. They needed a narrative shift. And the 4-1 victory over Tottenham Hotspur wasn't just a win, it was a declaration. From the first whistle, the aggression was different. The tempo was sharper. Passes were played forward earlier. Runs were made with conviction, not hesitation. This wasn't sterile control. This was vertical intent. When Spurs equalized early in the second half, you could almost feel the old storyline trying to resurface. Tension, doubt, the familiar script of momentum slipping. Instead, Arsenal detonated it. They didn't retreat into safety. They accelerated. The response was ruthless. Waves of attacks, direct running, decisive finishing. The presence of Gyökeres changed the geometry of the game. Suddenly, there was a direct lane through the opponent, not just movement around them. He offered penetration instead of patience, force instead of finesse. That's the key difference. Arsenal didn't survive Spurs. They overwhelmed them. 4 goals, no mercy. 5 points clear again. The noise quieted, not because critics disappeared, but because the performance left no room for doubt. But here's what makes this evolution real. 4 days later, against Chelsea, Arsenal won in a completely different way. No chaos, no explosive transitions, no flowing rhythm, just control. The 2-1 win at the Emirates was tense, structured, and uncomfortable. William Saliba opened the scoring from a corner, timing and execution over flair. Chelsea equalized right before halftime. The worst possible psychological moment. Stadium tightens, energy shifts, momentum threatens to flip. This is where immature teams unravel. Arsenal didn't. They reset emotionally. They kept their spacing. They trusted their system. And when the moment came, Jurrien Timber rose from another Declan Rice delivery to head home the winner. 16 league goals from corners this season. That's not luck. That's design. Set-piece efficiency, rehearsed movement, repeatable patterns. Then, late in stoppage time, David Raya made the save that won't dominate highlight reels, but absolutely preserves titles. This wasn't dominance. This was management. Even after Chelsea went down to 10 men, Arsenal didn't lose structure. They handled the advantage instead of assuming it. They closed the game with composure rather than adrenaline. And when you put these two matches together, that's when you see the transformation clearly. Against Spurs, Arsenal won with intensity and vertical punch. Against Chelsea, Arsenal won with structure and emotional discipline. Same squad, same week, completely different problems. Two completely different solutions. That's not a team riding momentum. That's a team maturing in real time. Champions don't just blow opponents away. They win beautifully when they can, and win brutally when they must. This wasn't just a response to pressure. It was proof that Arsenal can now win in more than one language. And in a title race decided by margins, versatility is power. Now the emotion fades. Now it becomes mathematics. 9 games left, 64 points on the board, 5 points clear of Manchester City, but with City holding a game in hand. And that small detail changes the psychological landscape completely. On paper, the schedule looks kind. Only one remaining clash against a current top 6 side. City away at the Etihad on April 18th. That sounds manageable. It isn't. Because in title races, obvious dangers are easier to prepare for than quiet ones. Let's map it properly. Brighton away, Everton at home, Bournemouth at home, City away, Newcastle at home, Fulham at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home, Crystal Palace away on the final day, 5 of the 9 at the Emirates. That matters. Home advantage in April and May can feel like oxygen.